Good night, everyone. Are you hearing me? Give me a thumbs up reaction if you are. Welcome to the Writing Like a Boss series. My name is Mrs. Jem Tadier, and tonight I will be presenting to you the other part of expository writing. So some of you who would have been on last week would have gotten the first part where we looked at letter writing as a form of expository writing. I believe yesterday we had articles, expository writing, and tonight we are going to be looking at writing reports and the memorandum or memos. Tomorrow night, we are going to have the wrapping up of expository writing with Miss Kamari Richardson Thomas. She's going to be looking at statistical reports. So it is my pleasure to present tonight as we continue to encourage you young people across the region that you are more than able to apply, to understand the key terms or the key concepts. Because as I had said in my last session, really and truly, this is a lifelong skill. Everything that you're learning in English language, every area, section A, summary writing, section B, expository, section C, narrative, and section D, argumentative, persuasive, they are all tailored to give you the success that you need in the future. When you go out into the world of work, you're gonna need summary writing tips. You're gonna need how to be able to evaluate and submit information. You're also going to have to, in terms of expository writing, you have to write formal letters. You will have to do reports depending on your job or your field. You may have to do memos, minutes, notices, emails. So I want you all, when you all take in the information, not just that we are learning it as a topic or we are learning it because I need to pass English, which all of you, I believe, will be quite successful in your English year exam. But it's not only for that. I'm hoping that we take in the formats, the concept, the structure, and really know that this is something that we have to apply as we go along. Narrative writing, the things that we say, it helps us in our oral presentation. It helps us in storytelling. It helps us in writing. Some of you want to be future directors, script writers. That is where the summary writing skills begin. And the narrative writing skills are really allow you to flourish. And then, of course, many of you take part in the argumentative part because many of you have those discussions with parents, with teachers, with peers. So we are equipping you with the skills that are going to train you for lifelong. So these sessions, all the sessions that would have gone before and going on, I want you all to truly embrace them as lifelong learning skills that you need to implement for the rest of your life. So tonight's session, I am going to be looking at, let me see if I can share my screen. I'm going to be looking at the expository part of report writing and memos. All right, so as my screen has shared, I see Amelia. Is it that you're saying that you're hearing? Thank you for affirming me, Amelia. Thank you for letting me know that you are hearing. You can now lower your hand. And of course, basic protocols. If there's a question, feel free to raise your hand using the raise hand icon. I have Miss Kamari Richardson Thomas, and as well as the other teachers who are on who would be able to help me see whose hands or who may have a question so that I may be able to answer. At this time, invite your friends, tell them to come on. The session is about to start. And if the room is filled, then let them know that they can access through the YouTube link. So be sure to get the YouTube link. I don't know if somebody could probably post it in the chat of our Zoom so that anybody who cannot get on, they can have access to the YouTube link.
Miss, I had raised my hand to ask you a question.
Okay, all right. Sorry about that, Amelia.
Oh,
Yes, my
I
dear.
would like to know when you all will be having.
Go ahead, Amelia. Just start to share my screen.
Miss, I wanted to know when you'll be having a session on how to write an article.
We had this session yesterday, last night. You can access it on the YouTube link. I don't know if Miss Richardson Thomas can help in that area of directing her where the YouTube link for that session is. But maybe we can, at the end of the session, send some hyperlinks to the previous sessions. All right, so of course we're looking at report writing today. And I'm just gonna go over, for those of you who may have been on my first session, where I set the format for letters and the background for expository writing. I'm just going to do a quick recap. A reminder of what is expository writing. And again, expository writing is a type of writing that, and you can put up your hand. I just want like maybe 2 persons to give me some of the things that they know for sure that what the style or the type that expository writing it pulls out of us. What does it do? What does expository writing is expected to do? What are we expected to do? Yes, Alicia Mendez.
It like gives factual information.
It gives factual information, so it informs. Anybody else? Remember, this is just bringing out from your memory some of the things you know. Yes, I'm seeing Brown Town, Tiana, that's the name. Yes.
Yes, no,
It
it's just a
persuades.
Say it again.
It also persuades.
Would we say that expository persuades? I wouldn't say that necessarily expository is for persuasion, but let's go through them quickly. It explains, informs, or presents factual information clearly and logically. So it is not trying, compared to argumentative writing, it's not trying to persuade the reader, but it is giving the reader the factual information, the relevant information. It may be explanatory in nature, and therefore, expository writing is a wide range of formats. So the characteristics are generally to be objective, factual, and well-structured. So when you think of expository writing, these are some of the categories that may come for CSEC. And your teachers would have spent some time giving you the different formats and, giving you an idea of how you can write, because we don't know what CXC may tell us to do. They may say, write a letter of complaint or write a letter of request. They may ask you to write a letter to the editor, and that is explaining or describing a public issue. Or they may ask you to write a report, and that is what we're going to look at tonight. Writing a report. There are different formats: school reports, an incident and accident report. Or CXC may bring a prompt and say, write an email or write a notice or something like a memorandum or memo. So all of these are in the broad category of expository, and all of them, the entire goal is basically to test your ability to present factual information and ideas in an organized, objective manner. So let's take a quick overview of reports as we go along. What is report writing? Report writing is a formal method of presenting information clearly and objectively. It is used to inform, describe, or analyze events, situations, or findings. Reports are written with a specific audience and purpose in mind. So when you write a report, so for example, many of you may have had incident reports in school, and your dean or teacher of discipline may have told you, okay, I know you were there, come to the office, write a report. Now, you're not going to write a report on what you feel, but you're going to write a report on what you know happened. You're going to write facts. You're not going to make up stuff to put in a report. And that is why expository looks at factual information. So some of the types are school reports and field trip reports. So you may have to write this to a principal, a class teacher, or school board. We have incident, accident reports, and I know this is very popular among schools, where you may have to write about an event, an accident or incident or activity that took place. Some persons may have to write an eyewitness report, and sometimes that not only in an incident, accident report, but sometimes, as we get older and we may be at a scene of a situation, we may have to give a first-hand account of what was seen, felt, heard, etc. We also have the newspaper report, which is anything that is a newsworthy story. It may be investigative, weather, sport. So there are various types of reports, committee reports, and some of these things you may not do in CXC, like you may not get anything like that come for CXC, but it's something that is going to be a lifelong skill. And then the last one is statistical report, which Miss Thompson is going to look at tomorrow. Is it Thompson or Thomas? I don't want to say the wrong. Yes, it's Thomas, not Thompson. It's Thomas, sorry. Miss Kimari Richardson Thomas. So Miss Thomas will be dealing with statistical reports tomorrow, just in case CXC decides to bring it. Now again, as I mentioned, we don't know what CXC will bring. Therefore, we are giving you a variety of the styles, so that when it comes, you say, okay, I remember we had a session, I was able to recall the format, I'm able to write a paragraph, 2 paragraphs, 3 paragraphs. I know what they want me to do. So the main format of a report is similar to the format of formal letters. What are the key elements required when you're writing a formal letter? So when you're writing a letter, you have to have a certain address. So could you name some of the parts that is necessary when you begin writing a letter? Anybody? Raise your hand, use the raise hand icon. What do we need? So let me give you the first one, because I'm not seeing any hands up. Sender's address and date. What else is required in a letter? If you're writing a formal letter, a business letter, formal letter to your principal, to your dean, your class teacher. Yes, Amelia, I'm seeing your hand. And then I'm seeing Shal. Yes, Amelia?
It's the recipient's address and the title.
You need the recipient's address, which is with their name, the title, and address of the organization, institution that you may be writing to. Somebody's mic is open. Please be reminded to mute your mics. Right? I saw Shal. So after we have the sender's address, we have the receiver's address. What do we have?
The organization name and the organization address.
So that falls right in the receiver's address. So right after your receiver's address, how do you start? What do you put?
Miss, the greeting. The
greeting, which is called the salutation. So be reminded, if you know who you are writing to, then, and usually CXC will give you the prompt, maybe with the names. So then you would know specifically, okay, my salutation would be dear Mr. So-and-so, or in my receiver's address, I would have the name of the person, then I'd have the title. But if it doesn't have who exactly we are writing to, and it just says, write to the editor, or it just says, write to the manager or the supervisor, we don't know if it's a male or female. So then we may start there, sir, madam. However, if we know if it's a male or a female, it is respectful to call the person by their handle. So we address the letter or the report, dear Mr. Jack, dear Mrs. Dill. So after this salutation, what do we have? This format is necessary if TSC says to bring a letter or if they say to bring a report. So that's why I'm making sure that we are aware so that when we see it, we know how we have to format it. We have the subject line. So some students ask me, Miss, do you have to have a subject line? And it depends on what the type of expository piece that you have to write. Not all require subject lines, but as a CXC marker, I would tell you, if there is a exposition piece that is required and it needs a subject line, you will lose the mark if you do not put it. However, if you put a subject line and it is not necessary, you do not lose a mark. So with that in mind and with that in light, it is better you put in the subject line because they will never take away marks for you putting it in. However, if you leave it out and it is expected in that specific format, then you would lose a mark. So best bet, put in the subject line. And it augurs well, especially for this fast-paced society where at one glimpse, we want to see, what is this going to be about? What is this about? What we want to just know right away. A subject line augurs well for any sort of formal writing. Then we have the body, which is the introduction, your main content, your conclusion, and we have the complimentary close, which basically is comprised of the signature, your full name, title, or position held. So again, the main format of a report is similar to the format of formal letters. So once you learn the format, this is a format that is going to transcend over different types of writing. So if you ask to write a formal letter of complaint, we know these are the things that is necessary. If we are asked to write a report to the head of an organization concerning something that is happening, then it's the same format that we look at for CXC. And I will show you a sample from CXC where you see they ask for a report and you will see the format that CXC themselves offered for that specific report. So again, just to go through briefly, there are two styles. You can have the block style where you have everything on the left, where you have the sender's address, you have the date, you have the receiver's address, and as you see, it's their name, professional title, institution, and the address of that institution. You have the salutation. We know it's Mr. Clark, so we say, dear Mr. Clark. We have a subject line. We have a body of the letter. Notice, if you're using the block form, you may skip the lines. Some of you may do indentation. We accept both. In CXC, we accept both. There's no best, there's no better. Once we can see that the child has the ability to understand paragraphing and to understand that a new point goes into a new paragraph, that falls under organization. We will also look at the mark scheme coming to the end of the session as well, so that you will have a clearer understanding of what CXC looks at when we look at your writing. Then, of course, you have your complimentary clause and name of sender and the sender's title. Sometimes we call it the designation of the sender's title. So all of those, once you have that format, remember again, it can be the block style where everything is aligned to your left, or you can have it this way. There's no better, there's no best. Some teachers teach it, everything aligned to the left. Some teachers teach it, you put the sender's address on your right, you put your receiver's address on your left, you have your subject line. So many of you will say, well, miss, my teacher, it's fine. We accept it both ways as long as we see the sender's address, receiver's address, salutation, subject line, the body, and of course, the complimentary clue. So I just added in those two so that you will be aware of the style, how you format your report. It is very similar to a letter. So you format your report with those headings. And then how should we structure the body of report? So we understand you must have the sender's address, receiver's address. I hope you all took a picture if you needed of the key elements of letter and report style of writing. If anything, I can always go back if anybody needs me to, so you can take a quick screenshot. How should we structure the body of a report? It depends on the type of report. So for an introduction, you may have to state the purpose or objectives of the report. So for example, if it's a report on, let's see, informative report. So like, informative report that you have to basically just share information of something that is going to happen, an event, right? Nothing took place, but it's something about to happen. You may say the purpose or objectives of the report, and you give that information of what happened at that event. You simply say it's not an accident, it's not an incident, you're just giving the information. Or it may be an accident or incident report. And in that way, you have to have your 5 W's. Even in a newspaper report, you have to have your 5 W's. The who, the when, which gives us date and time, the where, which is the place, the what, and the why. So in your introduction, and I will show you some examples as we go along. In your introduction, depending on the type of report, you may have to word your introduction depending on what CXC has asked you to do with the information that was given. The body, which is 2 or more paragraphs, 2 being the least, depending on and that is the least not inclusive of the introduction. So you must have your introduction, then you may have 2 or more. 2 or more, it can be 3, it can be 4, it can be 5 paragraphs. It just depends on the amount of information that is required to be placed into that report that will determine how you structure. But it should not be less than 2, excluding the introduction. So at max, you should have an intro paragraph. At least you should have an intro paragraph, 2 body paragraphs, and a conclusion. So at least 4 paragraphs. Outside of that, you may have 5 paragraphs. Sometimes, depending on the nature, it may come to 6. But remember, we don't want to be repetitive to try to make our writing longer. We don't want to add in information that is unnecessary or irrelevant, because that is going to deduct marks from your writing. You want to keep the information precise. You want to keep the information factual, and you want to keep the information relevant to what the stimulus has asked you to do. So you may have to give the details, the how. Maybe they may ask, maybe you have to put the sequence of events, depending on the type of report, the requested information, or maybe it's a witness account. So just depending on the type of report that is asked of you, it will allow you to understand, okay, so this is what I need to put in my paragraphs. And the conclusion, of course, basically follow-up actions, recommendations if necessary, or conclusion or summative statement. So you may sum up, you may conclude based on the things that you presented. This is what happened, or this is what will happen. Follow-up actions in terms of what may come due to whatever took place. These are the things that are going to happen due to the previous action. So what is the language and the format? Features, the tone in all writing, whether it be an email, a notice, a letter, and a report, memo. All of the expository aspects require your tone to be formal. In report writing, we usually expect the third person, except when you do have the eyewitness report, which I shouldn't say should be, but maybe in the first person, because some persons may not always write the eyewitness report in the first person. But if it's a first-hand account of what was seen, heard, you know, that kind of thing, of course, the first person is expected. The tense is in the past tense, because usually when we write a report, it's a report based on something that took place, something that has happened. And therefore, we are giving the feedback, we are giving the information, we are giving the series of events that took place. Structure, clear paragraphing, or some persons do the block style, which is skip lines. That is accepted as well. If you have any questions, please feel free to raise your hand. Content, remember, expository writing looks at factual and quite objective. Yes, sir. I'm not seeing the name, but I'm seeing the school, Scarborough Secondary.
Yes, Miss. You could just go back to the previous slide so I could just screenshot it, please.
Sure. This previous slide. This one. Okay, just let me put back conclusion. There you go. You got it? Good. Thumbs up. So that means she's all set and done. So let's just go forward again. So for example, one type of report I listed earlier.
Could you go back, please?
Say it again.
Could you go back, please?
To the slide just before this one.
Yes.
Ms. Tadia?
Yes, miss.
Right. I just want to let students know that the session is being recorded. It's on YouTube. So things that they might miss in your presentation, they can get it back in the YouTube recording after the session.
Perfect.
If you need to go ahead and continue.
Yes, because this session has a few things we want to cover. So again, miss, I do know at the end, maybe you can just put the YouTube link in the chat so that they can copy and paste. All right, so we have different forms of reports. So we're looking at some of the reports that we know. Yes, Fiona?
Is the subject line supposed to always start at the margin?
Your subject line can start at the margin, or it could be to the center of your page.
Thanks, Miss. Okay.
No problem, my dear. So for example, if we had to write a school report or a school activity report, it can come in a form of cricket match, a cleanup campaign. So CXC says, write a report on the cricket match that took place in let's see, what school am I seeing this? Scarborough Secondary School. And they give you the information, or they give you the details, or they give you some information in between that took place. Award ceremony, winners, the sequence of how the match was played off, the teams that were against each other. So they give you all that broad information. And now you have to take the information and write a report. So maybe your principal wants his report because the principal is asking you as head of the sports club to give a report on the match that you all played at, what other school am I seeing here? St. Malabar. St. Francois Girls. So you all played a match against, so they want that report. Simply, when we're looking at that, what is our format? When I say format, structure, the first part, before we even begin to get into the body. How do we structure this letter? This report, sorry, what do we need to have? Somebody put their hands up. What is the report format that I mentioned? Is quite similar to a letter format that is required upon writing before you get into the intro, the body, and the conclusion. Yes, Amelia?
Miss, the sender's address, the recipient's address and title,
Yes.
the greeting,
Yes.
and then the subject line.
Correct. So those are the things that are necessary. It's the base of your letter. It's a structure. It's a format that we, CXC, give you 3 marks for. So if you have those components, your 3 marks are secured. Of course, if it is email, then that format that is necessary for that. If it's a memo, which we'll learn later on, every aspect of expository has a format that we look for. So thank you, Amelia, for sharing. But yes, that is the format is necessary. Then you have your body of your letter. So if this is a school report, your introduction may give information about the event, time, place, location. So you may start on the 23rd of April, 2025, Scarborough Secondary hosted its 3rd annual cricket match at the Larry Gomes Stadium from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. So we give the information in the introduction. We give the basics. Then we begin to give the details. So maybe we'll talk about the activities that took place, the participation, the challenges. Maybe we were supposed to start at 9 and we started at 10. So you may have to put in some of those details within your body, and then of your conclusion, the outcomes, who won, who carried home the challenge trophy, which team had the biggest rhythm side, that's you conclude. And then you may say, if necessary, you may suggest to do something a little better the next time so that whatever challenge that took place would not recur. So I think I have a little sample here. Now, again, the sample doesn't have the heading, but we know that once we're writing a report, we must have the senders, receivers, the salutation, the subject line. So this report says, write a report about a cricket match that was played between 2 classes at your school. So if you're writing a report with 2 classes at your school, you may have been writing it to your vice principal, your sports master, or your sports mistress may have asked a report on what took place. So again, our intro, body part of the letter now. On Tuesday, May 12th, 2015, a cricket match was played between 2 classes from Marval RC School. It was held at the school Savannah. The match began at approximately 10 a.m. Now we're going into the body. First, the umpire, Mr. Singh, called the two captains, Craig Ali from Standard 3 and Rowley Smith from Standard 4. After he tossed the coin and Rowley won the toss and he chose the bat. A few minutes after, Captain Rowley opened the batting with Randy. After scoring 15 runs, Rowley was bowled out. Soon after, the entire team was out for 150 runs. Next, Captain Greg went into bat with Justin. After scoring 20 runs, Justin was run out. An hour later, the entire team was out for 134 runs. The Standard 4 players batted and fielded very well. The match ended at approximately 4 o'clock p.m. At the end of the match, the announcer summoned both captains to give a speech on what they thought about the game. To show good team spirit, both teams shook hands and congratulated each other. The winning team was presented with a challenge trophy and a check. Each player received a medal. So because I don't have the space there, I didn't put in the closing and I didn't put in the intro, which is of course the format that we look for. But I wanted to show you more or less because the format is something that's only 3 marks. But I really want to get to you all what the body looks like because the body carries way more marks in terms of your organization. Here you would see transitional words, something you would have heard us talk about in summary writing, expository writing, I'm sure in narrative writing, in argumentative persuasive writing. Your transitional words are very key in your organization of your writing. So I wanted to focus not really and truly on the body of a report so that you can get an idea what it looks like, what it sounds like. I didn't see anything that brings out a feeling. I felt that Justin should have bat better, or maybe Randy was being sluggish on the field. I didn't see anything like that. I just saw factual information of what took place. And therefore, that is what we are looking when we are talking about writing a report. We don't want you to get all emotional about it and decide, okay, well, I found that the umpire was unfair because the umpire did this. And, we don't want to get emotional about it, but we want to stick to the facts. Another report we have here, report on a famous local visitor to our school. So on the 3rd of March, again, I want you to look at the structure. The purpose that I'm doing this is, yes, we know what the format is supposed to be. It's supposed to have that letter format with your sender's address, receiver's address, salutation, yes, your complimentary proof. But what does the body look like? And this is what a structured report should look like. On 3rd March 2015 at approximately 9 a.m., the principal, Mrs. Kassoon of the Endeavour Primary School, announced that the school will be visited by the Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Rowley. Well, at that time, as of Monday, is it? We have a new Prime Minister, but this would have been an old article, an old report. So at that time, his esteemed visit was to give a speech on the importance of education and to donate prizes to the 10 students who placed in the top 200 in the secondary entrance assessment examination. So in our intro paragraph, we have the date, we have the time, we have the who, we have the where, and we have the what. What was the purpose of having Dr. Rowley there, the Prime Minister there? So those were the questions answered in the introduction. Then the body is going to give us the details of what transpired. At approximately 10 a.m., the Prime Minister and his entourage arrived at the school. Then he was escorted by the principal to the assembly hall where all the students and teachers were seated. After, he was greeted with a gallant placed around his neck by Jesse Williams, a Standard 1 student, and he was given a loud round of applause by all the students. After that, all the students waved their red, white, and black flags. After a few minutes, the principal introduced the Prime Minister. Then he began his speech. He spoke about the importance of education in today's society. He mentioned that the way out of poverty is to have a good education. He also said that students, notice they did not give he and put it in quotation mark, because remember, we are talking in the third person. So and reported speech, we give it in the third person. He also said that students must listen and obey all the teachings and instructions of their teachers and parents, for their teachings will mold them to be better boys and girls and good citizens in the future. Dr. Keith Rowley's speech concluded at approximately 11:15 a.m. The Prime Minister then awarded the top 10 pupils in the secondary entrance assessment examination with trophies and vouchers to purchase books. He reminded the students once again that their future lies with them and their books in their school bags, and always keep reaching for the sky. In conclusion, he said that he was honored and elated to be at the Endeavour Primary School. The principal thanked him sincerely for his encouraging speech and for taking time from his hectic schedule to visit our school. He departed from the school at 11:45 a.m. Of course, we have our complimentary clothes. But as I said, I keep emphasizing, I want you all to see, what do we look at? We look at content. Format is one part, but we look at the content. We look at the relevance. We look at the organization. We look at, are you using transitional words? How is it sequencing? Did you tell me that Mr. Rowley thanked the principal in the beginning, and then are you giving me a flashback? Flashback is for narrative writing. So we are looking at your sequencing of the factual events that took place, what transpired. So sequencing is important. Coherence, which is your transitional words. We look at how well you use that. We look at how well you are able now to take the information and keep it very concise, yet straight to the point. No feelings were added in, no extra things like Jerry began to feel hungry, so he got up and he went to the toilet, and then he came back with a bag of popcorn, and Henry started to eat. We don't stray. We keep it very factual. Notice the tone, it's very formal. So based on this report, you get all the facts sequentially of what transpired when the Prime Minister visited that specific primary school. Moving on. Another type of report is what we call the newspaper report. And for those of you who may have been on yesterday, the presenter spoke about articles, and then she also looked at a newspaper report. So sometimes newspaper reports are called articles. So the format for that, in comparison to a school report or an accident report, the newspaper report has a headline. It's very similar to the article. So it has, and if you were on yesterday, and if you were not on, I would recommend that you go back to the YouTube link so that you can make the connection in your mind. It's very similar to an article. You have the headline, then you have the introduction, and in the introduction, they may indicate the date, the time, the location, and the persons involved in the report. They may talk about the details, the relevant information. They may quote from officials or persons who were there, depending on the type of newspaper report. A newspaper report doesn't only look at an accident or an incident. Newspaper reports can be sports, it can be weather, it can be any newsworthy information. It could be a new discovery. For example, they may say Jamaica strikes oil, and they may call a county or that they may have founded, a parish. So it can be a variety of things that a newspaper report can fall under, not only an incident or an accident. So again, the format, conclusion, the decisions made to the event, and of course, a byline. A byline means who the writer is. A byline can be placed on top. So right after the heading, you can have by. Thank you, Miss Thomas. She just posted the YouTube link for the articles that was done yesterday, so that you can make sure you take a review of it. So the byline can come right after the headline, or it may come at the end of your piece of writing, and you give your name, and if you have a title or designation, you may choose to put that there as well. So for example, this is not an entire newspaper report, but just to give you an idea. My purpose tonight is really for you to visualize what my writing should look like. Not only knowing the format, but what should it look like? And that is my true purpose for the presentation tonight. So you have the heading, as you notice, all 155 safe after pilot ditches jet in NYC River. So we have a heading, we have a byline. It's by David B. Caruso, who is the Associated Press writer. That's why I said after you may have a designation or a title held after your name. And of course, I'm not going to read this entire piece, but I just want you to see the paragraphing in terms of whether it's a skipped line. Some of you may indent to show your paragraph style. That is fine. Once you acknowledge that when you are presenting information, new information should be added to a new paragraph. Now, some paragraph lines may be quite short. Some students ask me, Miss, is it a stipulated amount of lines? Ideally, most times, teachers would say 7 to 8 lines, 8 to 10 lines in a paragraph. However, depending on what you are given and the number of information that is asked to be placed into the report, then you would be able to know if you need 2 paragraphs, it's going to be 3 paragraphs, depending on the stimulus that has been given to you. So again, as I said, I'm not going to read this one. I'm just basically showing you what it looks like. Then we have accident and incident reports. This one is very popular. As I said, many of us are familiar with this because some of us may have to write it in school at times. Something happened, an incident happened, transpired with you and a classmate or another person. You may have to write an incident report. And the structure is very similar as with all reports. We have the basic credentials of your sender's address, receiver's address, your salutation, your subject line, and then your body. What do I put in my body, miss? That is the part that really, really, it throws some students off. And tonight, you must not be thrown off your game. You must cover over the courtesies of sender's address, the receiver's address, subject line. You must cover that. But you must be able to handle the body of your report. So if it's an accident report, CXC says there has been an accident between 2 boys in a classroom. Write a report to your form teacher stating what transpired or what took place. Your introduction paragraph, your introductory paragraph. They should have the date, the time, place, name or names of persons involved, and the nature of the incident and the accident or accident. Ideas for the body. You may discuss the series of events that led to the incident or the accident and the persons involved, the series of events that took place after the incident, and the actions that took place by other persons present after the accident or incident had taken place. And then, of course, these are just ideas depending on the stimulus. The conclusion. State what was the effect or how the impact of the incident was dealt with. Consequences of the incident. So some persons may have gotten suspended. The ambulance may have had to be called to the scene because somebody may have suffered a broken leg. So this is the information that needs to go into the conclusion so that we would know this is what took place. Parents were notified about the incident, and the principal is awaiting several reports to make a complete decision. Some of these things as well, how you can conclude your report. And I'm giving you an example of what the introduction may have in it and how the body can look, may look, and of course, a conclusion. Now remember, there's no subscribed way of writing. Every child will go into that exam room. You know yourselves. Every one of you are each unique in your way and your style of writing. So I am not saying this is what you have to write. But what I am saying is this is an idea so that some of you can say, okay, all right, so when I get in the exam room, I know my introductory paragraph, this is what it should look like. My body, these are the things I should put in my paragraphs. My conclusion, this is what I should have in it. So again, the introduction must have, this is you a witness to an accident in the school play field. Write a report to the principal explaining what you saw. So the date, so for example, if CXC gave you that prompt and then they gave you the date, they gave you the time, they gave you the place, they gave you the topic, they gave you the people who were involved, and they told you, let us know the series of events and the action taken. Now, again, you would have to write your report, of course, with the courtesies, with the formats, sender's address, receiver's address, salutation, subject line. You begin. On Monday, May 11th, 2015, or some of you may have written 11th of May, 2015 at 11:30 a.m. at the Diggle Martin Primary School, an incident occurred, and you could have put in, because it doesn't have all there, an incident occurred between two infant children, Cindy, a second year student, and Betty, a first year pupil. So you have your intro. In your body, you begin now to explain the details of what happened. Two infant children were playing on the swings in the field. Cindy, a second year student, was pushing Betty, a first year student, very high on the swing. While Cindy was shoving Betty vigorously on the swing went sideways and hit the pole. Betty was jerked and thrown out of the swing. She flew into the air before landing on the ground. As she landed on the ground, she began to scream. Immediately, her head started to bleed. Moments later, some students surrounded her. Quickly, Lee, a student from Standard 1, went and called the Red Cross teacher, Mr. Ali. As soon as he noticed Betty's condition, he took up Betty and placed her in his car and rushed her to the health center, where she was treated by a doctor in the casualty department. And as we conclude, after Mr. Ali took her home and explained to her parents what had happened, the following day, Mr. Ali spoke to the students at assembly. He warned them about being careful when playing on the swings and to obey the school rules. Again, there is no emotion. I don't want to say there's no emotion, but there is no your personal feeling that is there. there is exactly factual information of what transpired. We didn't have the additives of what's her name? Betty bawling uncontrollably, and then Randy ran to the bathroom to get toilet paper, and then he came back, then he forgot to get a rag with water, so he went back, and then he came back, and then he decided to go. So we don't want the rambling. We really, it's not a test of how dramatic your writing can be, but it's really testing how you can take the information, how you can organize it, how you can structure it effectively using relevant factual information without immersing yourself emotionally within the scenario, but just giving us the factual account of what would have or may have transpired. Anybody has any questions? Before I move on, does anybody have any questions? Yes, sir. Is it Kylie or Kaylee?
Yeah,
Hi,
Kaylee. Good night, Miss. For the newspaper report, when you have to write it, you're not gonna put the sender's address or no, that you're just gonna go straight to the heading and write like normal.
Yes. So you're gonna put your headline. You can't date it, so you may put the date, the headline, then your byline, and then you write the report. And of course have a complimentary close. And the reason why I say it may not be a complimentary close, but a closing, because based on the article we did last in January, we required an ending, a designation, so your name and a designation, the position held, based on the prompt that they give. So I wouldn't want you to lose any marks for not giving a proper close. Okay, great. So Kaylee has a thumbs up, so she's clear on that. So again, I just wanted to highlight here transitional words. I'm not going to read this report, but transitional words are very important in your writing. It gives the flow that we are looking for. It gives the sequencing that we are looking for. It gives us that this child understands language in such a way that they can use these transitional words to help move along the ideas, the sequence of events. And therefore, in your language mark, which is out of 10, you tend to see that students who are able to use these transitional words to present their ideas, to flow their ideas through, they may get a higher mark, but not just because they use transitional words. It would have to mean that their subject-verb agreement, they had their subject-verb agreement, their punctuation, their spelling, everything was, all working cohesively. But nevertheless, it shows, though, that this child has a good command of the language. Now, just to be careful, do not throw in a transitional word that doesn't connect, because you may say, well, Miss said use transitional words, so I will give them transitional words. Of course, we wanted to make connection. We wanted to be clear. We wanted to flow. That's the purpose of transitional words. So if where we have a few minutes after, and you decided, well, I don't want to use a few minutes after. You want to use, let's see. Because the bell rang for the afternoon recess. It wouldn't make sense there. It wouldn't make sense there. So you have to make sure that when you use your transitional words, it makes sense, because it's supposed to work together to help elevate or to help encourage the continual flow of your writing. It shouldn't distract or take away from. So again, that was just basically to show you the use of transitional words. So this is a report I mentioned earlier that CXC gave in 2019. So in 2019, they gave a scenario. Usually, CXC will give you a full stimulus or stimuli, or scenario, situation, and they are asking you now to write a report. So the scenario is your Form 5 class of St. John's High School. Can I get a volunteer to read? Let's be a little interactive here. Can I get a volunteer? I see who I see. I see St. Francois. I see Kaylee. I see Amelia on my screen. I see Jessica. Thank you, Jessica. Okay, Jessica, go ahead.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay, so your Form 5 class of John Saints. I'm sorry, can I please start over?
Sure.
Okay, so the instruction is study the situation presented below and then complete the task that follows. Your Form 5 class of St. John's High School, located at Aston's Bay, St. John, was carrying out an experiment in the science laboratory in the period before lunch on 30 April 2019. Your teacher, Mr. Daly, had to leave the room to meet a parent at the office. Two students, Mary, St. Rose, and Andrew Campbell, rolled up sheets of paper around a ball and began to throw it at each other. Mary threw the ball and Andrew did not catch it. The ball hit a set of beakers on one of the desks next to them. The beakers fell and broke. When Mr. I'm sorry.
That's fine. You're going well. Thank you. Go ahead.
When Mr. Daly returned to the science laboratory, he inquired about the cause of the incident, but no one responded. Mr. Daly then asked that the area be cleaned, and he informed the students that their parents would be contacted to pay for the broken beakers. After the class, he reported the matter to the school's principal, Mr. John Clark, who asked the class prefect to write a report of the incident to be submitted to him. Imagine you are the class prefect. Write the report to the principal. Your answer will be assessed on how well you, 1, format the report, 2, select relevant and complete information, 3, organize and express information in your report, and 4, use appropriate grammar, sentence structure, vocabulary, spelling, and punctuation. Your report must be in continuous prose. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jessica. Thank you so much. So again, we have a scenario here. What I would recommend, this is a lengthy scenario, underline some of the key things that that they are asking of you and that stood out. So you have to underline, of course, when, where, you have persons involved. So these are the things you're going to make a note of. It's very simple. It's your paper. You can underline on it. You can put a number 1, a number 2, a number 3. Could you say the question, miss? It came up, but let me see. Chat says, would you have to write and, from, and salutations for a report of this type? So that's what I would like. That's what I'm gonna let somebody answer for me as we go along. So you're gonna get that answer. You are going to get that answer. So what I'm recommending is underline some of the things that is important. He inquired about the incident, no one answered. So you can make a note of all these things on your paper so that you don't leave out valuable, critical, relevant information. Then of course, Mr. Daly then asks here to be clean and inform the students and their parents to be contacted to pay. So that is consequences. When we begin to write now, CXC says, format the report. Not only that, they said, your report must be in continuous prose. As I explained when we looked at letter writing, continuous prose simply means that we don't want bulleted points. So for example, if CXC had taken this same stimulus or this same prompt, and instead of writing out what happened, they started and they gave you up to 2019, right? No, they gave you up to office. Then in bulleted points, they put 2 students, Mary St. Joe's, Andrew Campbell. Then they put sheets of paper and class fight or class throwing of paper. So they put just bulleted points for you. We are not expecting that a student, when they see continuous prose, would write back for us bulleted points. It has to be continuous writing, and that's why we are looking at paragraphs, and that's why I was focusing so much on what a report looks like. It looks like it in any of the reports I would have shown you, you would not have seen any bulleted points. So be mindful. CXC tends to at times break down the main relevant things that they want you to write, whether it's a report or it may be a letter, it may be a notice, it may be an email. I'm calling all of them because in all of them, we do not want you to give us bulleted points. If you give us bulleted points, you are going to lose marks. So be mindful. Continuous prose suggests we want it in paragraphs and we want your writing to flow with transitional words. So how are we going to structure this? Was the I was asked by one of our YouTube fellow watchers. Kaylee, your hand is up. Is it to answer or is it to ask another question?
Hi, good night. Is to ask a question.
You can ask the question and we will deal with all at the same time. Go ahead. Go ahead, Kaylee. I'm not sure why Kaylee's mic. I don't know if she's having any problems, but to answer the question I was asked.
Sorry, I don't know why, but it stopped working and I could not. So the question I wanted to ask was, when you were speaking, you said we have 2 structures in ways to write in a report. You could use the letter writing form, and in some cases you would have to use the report writing form alone, right? But my question is, how are we supposed to know?
Before you let me clear up that what you just said. There is no report writing format. The letter writing and report format is the same format. So all reports, except from the newspaper report, you have your sender's address, your receiver's address, your salutation, your subject, and a complimentary clause. So to clear up, there's no difference. So go ahead, Kaylee. Excuse me, I have a little cold, so you may see me using an inhaler. Go ahead, Kaylee. Yes, Fiona, and wait for Kaylee to come back on.
Right. So just to make sure, there's the only time, my question was like, the only time we using that we may have to switch up the structure. That was basically my question.
Yes.
So the only time we using a different structure is for the newspaper reports, right?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
If you have to do a field trip, if you have to do a school activity, if you have to do an incident or accident report, we look for the format of your sender's address, because even if it's within school, sender's address, receiver's address, your salutation, your subject line, and your complimentary close. We are going to go on to another area after this, which is called memos. You are going to see the difference there. But outside of that, when we are looking at for CXC, some teachers may tell you, you can write a report as a memo format. I'm just letting you all know, those of you who are on the call, so share the information. We have discussed it as CXC members, and I'm a part of the supervisory team, that the next time we bring a report, we will not be accepting the format of a memo unless they ask for a memo. If they ask for a report, we are expecting that the students are able to identify what the format of a report looks like and give us the format of the report. So I know for past times as in CXC, we did accept the memo format. For this exact prompt, actually, we did accept the memo format. You will learn it a little later, but I'm telling you, going forward, if they ask you to write a report, please note, we are expecting to see a report format, which is your sender's address, receiver's address, so everything that we've just gone through repeatedly. The only one that doesn't really have that kind of alignment would be a newspaper report, which is closely aligned to articles. So that is closely aligned with articles. The same format for an article is the same format for a newspaper report. So I hope that clears up any misunderstanding that we had. So let's see how CXC themselves would have dealt with this specific prompt. Ooh. Oh, did I go back? Sorry, I went backwards. So there was the points to consider. This is what some of the points that CXC would have acknowledged. We want to consider the nature of the incident, when the incident occurred, where it occurred, the persons involved, and their response to the incident. So these were some of the pointers in CXC's scheme that they asked as markers to consider. As you can see here, this would have been the sample report that CXC viewed as acceptable in writing. We had a sender's address, receiver's address. In this specific one, didn't have a subject line. However, remember I noted, there are some expository pieces that require subject line that some don't. However, if there is any one of the expository pieces that require a subject line and you do not put it, you will lose a mark. If you had placed a subject line here, you would lose no marks. So my best advice is putting a subject. So here they had the sender's address, St. John's High School, Ashton Bay, St. John's, and of course, a date, whatever date the student would have put in. And then Mr. John Clark, principal, St. John's High School, Ashton Bay, St. John's. Because remember now, the prompt asks you, you are the class prefect and you are writing to the principal. Therefore, the information you are now taking on the persona of the class prefect And therefore, you're writing to your school. So notice the sender's address came from the school. The receiver's address was to the school, but it had Mr. John Clark, the principal, and then they began there, Mr. Clark. This report is about the incident that occurred in the science laboratory on the 30th April 2019. In the period before lunch at approximately 11:35 a.m., the Form 5 business class was doing an experiment in the general science laboratory. Now, students could name any part. So notice this is what I'm saying CXC prompt would have been. This is what their sample answer would have been. So we would have accepted any part. If you had said in the physics lab, if you had said, you know, another lab, the P lab or something else, we would have accepted with our teacher, Mr. D. He told us he was leaving to meet a parent at the office and instructed us to continue the experiment we were working on since he would not be long at the office. When he left, Mary St. Joe's and Andrew Campbell wrapped pieces of paper around a ball and began to throw it at each other. Andrew did not catch the ball that Mary had thrown at him. Instead, the ball hit a set of beakers that was on the desk next to both of them. They fell, that's a little error there, they fell to the ground and broke. Soon after, Mr. Daly returned and asked the class for an explanation as to how the beakers got broken. However, no one responded to his inquiry. He then instructed the class to have the broken beakers cleaned up. He informed us that our parents will be called and they will be responsible for paying to replace the beakers. He also told us that the incident would be reported to the principal, Mr. Clark, at the end of the class. Mr. Clark, these are the facts of the incident that occurred in the laboratory on the date in question. Now, you do not have to put a summative statement like that, but again, writing varies. There's no prescribed style that I can say, you can say, Miss, is this the perfect style? Because each one of you are excellent in your own way, your own style. Well, what I am trying to get to you do is there are certain success keys that we look at in writing: sequencing, organization, coherence with transitional words, relevant information, accurate information. That is what we are looking at when you are writing. And then, of course, your complimentary clause, your sincerely, you can say respectfully, truly, the person's name. So you would have had to have a signature. And remember, it is not you yourself writing the letter, but you have now taken on the persona of the class prefect. I don't think they gave a specific name of the class prefect, so you could have put any name there. However, if CXC had given you a name, be reminded that when they give you the information, please try to use the information that is given to make sure that your report or your piece of writing is as accurate as possible. Anybody has any questions on this sample? So this would have been a 2019 report. Anybody has any questions? Any concerns?
Yes, good evening.
Hi, Isaiah.
Yeah, so I'm seeing St. John's High School at the top, but isn't there a name that's supposed to go before the school?
No, in our sender's address, we don't put any names, remember? Basic structure. Sender's address is simply the address of the person who is writing and the date that they would have written or they are writing the report, also the letter, because this is the same format for both. The only time that you put the name is where you have the recipient's address or receiver's address, where you see Mr. John Clark. So it's the to, who am I sending it to? What is the position held? Principal, the address of the institution or the organization. Of course, the name of the organization and then the address of the organization, school or institution, whatever it may be. Is that clear, Isaiah? Anybody has any questions on report writing? Because I'm about to wrap up report writing and go quickly into memo writing. So again, remember transitional words. These are some that you can use. Screenshot it.
Hi, miss. One question.
Yes. Aidan?
About the subject line. I asked this previously, but that was about the re or subject. So do we put subject colon and underline it, or just write whatever we need to put in subject line?
All right, so your subject line, you have the word subject. You may use a colon. Some people may use a dash. It's not compulsory that you underline it. You do not have to underline it, but if you choose to underline it, that is fine as well. There's no wrong in terms of wrong way, whether it's a colon, whether it's a dash that you use, or whether you just put subject and the information. However, do remember that a subject line is a brief statement about what is going to be written. So you cannot give us 2-3 lines as a subject line. A subject line should be one brief statement about what the reader is about to deal with or read about in the piece of writing. So at this time, take a screenshot of this. If you're on YouTube, screenshot it, because these are helpful transitional words for different styles in terms of if you want to compare, addition, contrast, emphasize, time and sequence. So I just wanted to give you all an extra tidbit there. Some of you would have gotten it if you were in the other session as well with letter writing. So again, before we get into memos, with report writing, which is very similar in structure to letter writing, it's just that they ask you, either they say write a letter, it may be a letter of complaint. And those of you who would have missed that session on letter writing, where we did letter of complaint, letter to the editor, different ones, I don't know if by chance we can get, I know Miss is working on it, but I don't know if you can get any recordings of it. But if we do get it, you will be able to review. If not, just be mindful that when they ask, if CXC asks you specifically, if they ask you to write a letter, you must know what structure goes with it. If they ask you to write a notice, you must know what structure. If they ask you to write an email, you must know the structure. If they ask you to write a report, structure. The structure simply for both letter and reports are sender's address, date, receiver's address, salutation, subject, complimentary clause. That's your basic. And then whatever they ask you to do, you do with the body of it. Today's session, I try to focus on what the body of a report looks like, because that is the part that a lot of students struggle with, and they lose a lot of marks. Again, format is only 3 marks. I want you all to put that in perspective. Not saying that I don't want you to use the right format, but format is only 3 marks. Everything else matters. Your introductory paragraph, your 2, 3, 4, 5 paragraphs in between, your conclusion paragraph, your complimentary clause, or whatever it may be.
Good night, Miss.
Yes, go ahead.
Miss, after the subject line, do we skip a line?
You can. You can. Of course, if you want your writing, you want to be neat, you want it to look. But if you don't, again, you're not going to be penalized. If you do not skip a line, you're not going to be penalized.
Okay, Miss, thank you.
However, be mindful that in writing, we want to be able to see that you can, let me go back we want to see that you're taking the information and putting them in organizational structure. So You can't just write one whole piece of writing. That would then tell us this child put all this information in one whole paragraph, which did not show your organizational skills. There are also some of us, when we write, we get so excited in the exam, we forget punctuation marks. So sometimes an examiner is reading and we're reading because we try to naturally read the piece as it is presented to us with full stops, with commas, with the necessary punctuation points to bring out, of course, what the child is writing. And sometimes you have your whole piece of writing, one punctuation mark. That impacts your language structure. That impacts your language mark. And again, I'm going to show you the breakdown of the scheme when we finish memo, so that you can put into your mind, okay, this is what CXC is looking for. This is what they may take away a mark for. This is what they give you a mark for. So you'd have a full grasp or concept of what is required of you. So some persons may skip lines to show paragraphing, and then some persons may indent. We do not penalize for any specific format. They are both acceptable once we are aware that this child is able to take the information and structure it effectively. So let's just take a quick look at memo or the memorandum. And this is the last thing that we are going to look at when it comes to the expository part of writing. And tomorrow we will have a session, a full session on statistical report, because that is a whole style of on its own. Yes? Somebody said yes, miss. Let me see, come on, Miss Thomas. I think you said something there. I'm also concerned about the agenda and minutes. So is it that you're going to cover that tomorrow as well, Miss Thomas? You let us know if tomorrow, along with statistical report, you're going to do the agenda and the minutes, or are we going to have another session? I guess we will update the students in terms of what we plan forward in terms of those two. But let's look at the memo. Quick review. Many of you would have been taught this by your teachers. We are not coming to take away from what your teacher said, but we are hoping to add value. Remember, we are hoping to add value. So what is a memorandum? Also called a memo for short. A formal written message used for internal communication in organizations, institutions, businesses, etc. It can be concise, must be factual with relevant information. And we use it in a variety of fields, right? Teacher to principal within a school, secretary to a head of department within a school. In a business line, you may have the human resource officer writing to a member of staff. So it's an internal document that is used to inform, remind, or request, etc. There are other things that a memo can also do. But the main ones are to inform, remind, or request. What is the format of the memo? So the format, take a screenshot of this. The format of the memo has the to, it has the from, it has the date, and it has the subject. What does this format remind you of? Anyone? We learned this format last week. We did this format with Miss Candice. Candice, I think. Jillian. Yes, Amelia?
It's an email.
It reminds you of an email. So it's similar. Reminds you of an email. But the memo is on a document. It's a document versus an email, which is online. So the document would say to, and you're writing to the recipient and the position. The from, who it's coming from, and the date, the subject, brief subject line. And I have an example there. So for example, to Miss Heather Thomas Human Resource Officer. From Mr. Selwyn Hughes, Safety Officer. The date, 26 September 2009, and the subject, measures to reduce risk of fire. So this is an informative memo that is going out from the safety officer to the human resource officer of a unit or of the entire establishment. Again, so if CXC says write a memo to, you are the form teacher of class 2B, and whatever took place, write a memo to the head of department stating what was done concerning the matter with the cafeteria, or a student found that the dean dealt with them inappropriately, and the form teacher now has to take this information and give the information to a relevant authority within the organization. So within the organization, they may say, write a memo, and you have to write your memo concerning that. This is the format for the memo. After the format, what does the body look like? And this, I keep telling you all, this part is the one that I really want you all to master, because this is where the bulk of your 30 marks result. Format is only 3. If you minus 3 from 30, that's 27 marks you are leaving on the line if you don't truly make sure that your body, your information that you're bringing across is done efficiently. Introduction of your memo usually would inform the reader about the purpose of the memo, whether it's just to request, inform, to delegate, etc. And it also provides additional information if necessary. The body would give details of the details of information, or whether it's details of the request, details of the problem, details of the procedure, etc., depending again on the prompt that has been given. It provides date, time, location, and your conclusion. Ask the reader to respond by a specific date or offer suggestions or recommendations. It ends on a courteous note and expresses appreciation. So probably thanking the individual for their time, maybe saying, I look forward to your response. Please respond by so-and-so date. So that way we know that the person is looking for some kind of reserve or communication concerning specific issue that would have been asked within the memo. So your body, which is your intro, body, conclusion. I cannot stress how much 27 marks weighs on how you formulate this. And when I say formulate, I simply mean how well you are able to take the information and put it in continuous prose, put your paragraphs, your introductory paragraph, your body paragraph, your conclusion paragraph, and of course, whatever the structure or format, official format required for that specific expository piece of writing that CXC has asked you to do. So for example here, again, we have the 2. This is all students of grade 2 from Ms. Janice Walters, Head of English Department. Date, 1st May 2025. Subject, English A SBA workshop. This is to inform. So this is an informative memo. This is going to give us information. All grade 2 students at a compulsory English A school-based assessment SBA workshop will be held on Friday, 9 May 2025 in room 3A from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. The workshop is intended to assist students with the oral component of the SBA. So within your introductory paragraph, I know the who this memo is addressing, I know the purpose is to inform. I know the date of the proposed event. I know the event. I know the date of the proposed event. I know the time of the proposed event, and I know why the proposed event is carded. And in your introductory paragraph, it is important that you answer those questions when you're writing, especially when it comes to reports and memos. Very similar in nature. Just the formats differ. Then you continue giving details. It will include guidance on planning and delivering individual presentations, understanding the procedures for group discussions, and reviewing the recording requirements and assessment rubrics. Students are expected to attend punctually and come prepared with a topic outline and a draft of their presentation. Attendance will be recorded and all materials distributed during the session will not be reissued. Any student with questions is advised to speak with their English teacher before Thursday, 8 May 2025 for a timely response. Yours respectfully, Janice Walters, Head of Department. Any questions on this memo, on this sample memo? So again, structures may differ, but the information we wanted to, again, it's factual. It gives us specific, relevant information. It gives us date, time, location, and that is what a report is intended to do. Yes, Kaylee?
Good night, Miss. So practically the memorandum is a notice then, just with a different heading. So too from date subject.
Well, I wouldn't say a notice because, I mean, let me say, you see, a memo, it's an internal document. A notice, it's shorter. It doesn't have the, all the structure that may be there. It gives information, and expository writing does that. It gives information. So whether it's an email, whether it's a notice, it gives the information. However, for an internal document, I don't want to compare it to a notice because a notice is on its own. Its structure is different. So I don't want to confuse persons with what a notice has. It's the notice word. It has the top has to have the institution, that kind of thing. So we're focusing on like the memo, which is an internal document that runs within organizations, institutions, businesses. So I wouldn't compare it to a notice. But I do want you to know that each on its own, they each have a structure that augurs to that specific style of writing. It's just that it's just that report and letter just happen to have the same style, and memo and emails happen to have the same style, but you must be able to know what you are writing. What is required from you from CXC. So the prompt is the most important part. For your section 2, when you get to that stimulus or that prompt, read it well. Reread it twice. Don't just read it once. Read it again. Make sure you understand, what are they asking me to put in here? Are they asking me to inform? Are they asking me to analyze? Are they asking me to delegate? Are they asking me to report? What are they asking me to do? So once you are aware, this is what they're asking me to do, then you go back, you underline These are some of the things that I must have. Again, I keep saying CXC has a tendency, we bullet the content. So we bullet the content. You are now to take the information that has been bulleted and put it in continuous prose, in paragraphs, sequentially, that it makes sense, it flows. Reminding you, if you put the bulleted points into your writing, we will mark the format. You will get your 3 marks if you have the correct format. We will look at your writing, inclusive of the bulleted points, but you would lose marks in coherence. You will lose marks in conciseness. You will lose marks in sense of audience if you don't have it there. And you will lose marks in language, especially if you took exactly what the stimuli says. Stimulus or prompt says. So for example, so what the stimulus says, if you take the exact prompt and you rewrite it into your piece of writing, automatically your language marks would be devalued because you no longer took the information and took the information that was given and reused the information in a continuous prose context with transitional words, with paragraphing, so with structure, and therefore your language, the value decreases. So we don't want you all to devalue your language by copy and pasting. What we do want you to do is take the information accurately. We want you to take the information that is relevant and reassign it, I should say, in your writing, however you feel comfortable writing it. Again, I said there's no perfect ideal. This is the only way. We can give you templates, but there is no ideal. Every child is on its own merit. As a CXC marker, we look at each child on their own merit of what they present before us. So just moving on. Tips for memo again. Be clear, accurate, use formal language and tone. Avoid irrelevant information. Avoid personal opinions. And that is for most of exposition pieces or expository writing. These are true for most styles of writing when it comes to exposition. Double check your spelling, your date, and your formatting. So how does CXC mark section 2? So this is what I want you all to understand. The format and the conventions. So whether it is any of the broad scale, all you have to know, what's my format? What is my format for email? What's my format for memo? What's my format for letter or report? Once you know your format, you reproduce your format, you are going to get your 3 marks. Relevance and clarity of information. So CXC usually gives a detailed prompt. They don't really leave much to the imagination. They don't leave you on your own to stray, honestly. So really and truly, section B is the easiest 30 marks that you can grab with both hands. So with that in mind, all they are asking you is to make sure and take out the relevant information that they have put there for you. Make sure that when you rewrite it, that it is clear, that we understand what you're trying to say. You get your 3 marks. Your accuracy, completeness, and appropriateness. So this is under content. So content is going to be the stimulus that CXC or the prompt that they would have given you. The information in that prompt is the content. And again, CXC doesn't leave anything to chance. They give you all that you need in that prompt. So usually you just have to be able to know what to extract and how well to extract it. So accuracy, completeness, and appropriateness is 4 marks. So that means when we give you, suppose they give you some bulleted points, and we are looking out of those bulleted points, we want you to have, it was 5 or 6 bulleted points. We want you to have those 6 points. That falls into the accuracy, the completeness. When we look at the child, does the child have these points? Not bulleted though, written in continuous prose in paragraphs and structure. But we are looking for the completeness and the accuracy of the content that was pulled out. So you get your full 4 marks. So once you have your format down, your convention, that's 3 marks. The information that you pulled out of the prompt, relevant. You're able, when you write it, it's clear, 3 marks. Accuracy of the content information, that points that CXC would have asked you to include, whether in your report, memo, it goes across the board for expository writing. Notice, statistical report, emails, any of them. Your accuracy, your completeness of the content that is expected to go into the writing, 4 marks. Then we look at organization. How well is this child sequencing, or candidate sequencing the information? How is the presentation of their information? Did they mix up the information so we feel as if we're going on a merry-go-round where we up here and then they put in the stick in a party and then they stick in? Or is it something that we're reading, this is what happened, and then this happened, followed by this, or the expectations of this, that, the other? We're seeing that sequencing. Once we are seeing a sequencing, or as your information is sequenced, you get 2 marks. Easy, 2 marks. Coherence, your ability to use transitional words. Unfortunately, at the beginning, firstly, in the meantime, subsequently, consequently, things like that. Easy, 3 marks. Conciseness, what does that mean? It means that student is not looking, just trying to fill up the paper with repetitive information, and they're saying the same thing over and over because they believe, or their teacher told them they must write 5 paragraphs. And if they don't write 5 paragraphs, they wouldn't do well. Let me dispel that. If the content requires only 3 major parts of that content, or points, or content information that needs to be elaborated, then your writing may only have 3 paragraphs, and then you include, of course, your intro paragraph and your conclusion paragraph, which it might be only 5 paragraphs. Or you might only have 2 paragraphs. No, not 2 paragraphs, sorry. You may only have 3 paragraphs, an intro, a middle, and an end. Or you may have 4. But it just depends on the prompt. Do not put in extra information. Do not be repetitive, or you are making a point and it's long-winded before you get to the actual point. Putting in irrelevant information as well. You know, you're just putting in stuff because you're putting in stuff. That is going to impact. If it doesn't impact in conciseness, it will definitely impact in relevance. So if you don't lose your mark in conciseness for irrelevant information, you definitely will use a mark for irrelevant information under content relevance and clarity of information. So be mindful. Use the information that you have been provided. Many of us would wish we would have an idea every year what CXC will bring for expository. I wish I can tell you all this year is a report. I wish I can tell you this year will be a memo, but unfortunately we can't. So what we could tell you though is to, once you know your conventions, once you know your format styles, when you go in there, all you have to do is apply what you already know. Don't try to make it long-winded. Sense of audience, it may be a greeting, it may be reply information, it may be awareness of the reader, thanking them for their time on reading whatever the report may have been or the memo may have been. Also, sense of audience also maybe in a letter may look like you can contact me at an email address. I'm looking forward to your response. Those are things that we look at for sense of audience, recognizing that there's a reader that is there. But remember, the writing is formal. You're not going to write, "Hi, how are you? I am fine. I hope you are well." You're not going to write all of that, right? Depending on the type of writing, it may allow you to say, "I hope you are well," but I would keep it as formal as possible. And in your conclusion, there you may, put something there. But again, it depends on what they ask you. You may, in the beginning, have to write, "I hope that this letter meets you in good health." If you write that, that is also going to be considered a part of sense of audience. But I don't want to encourage any informal style of writing to say, "Well, Miss said we should start like that." No. Remember how I keep saying an introductory paragraph, especially for reports, it looks at date, time, place. It gives us those conventions. And then, of course, your body paragraph expands, it gives us details. And then you have your conclusion paragraph. Then, of course, correct language use. Correct use of language and structure. We give 7 marks for how well you are able to write, use subject-verb agreement, use the correct tense. Remember, if it's a report, what tense should it be in? I'm asking a volunteer. If we are writing a report, what tense did we say in the beginning that a report should be written in? Yes, Adara?
Past tense.
Past tense. Therefore, if it's a report, we are not expecting to see future tense. We're not expecting to see present tense, but we're looking to see it's a report. So it's something that has happened, and now you're giving now a recount of what transpired. So we are looking for the past tense within your writing. Remember, be careful mixing tenses, because we know you all may be a little nervous, but try to maintain the tense and carry it through your writing. And that is why it's important to reread what you are writing or what you have written, so that you make sure you can, make any little crosses and fix what's necessary. And of course, your mechanics, which is your spelling, your punctuation marks, etc., is 3 marks. And that's what makes up your 10. Again, as I told the other group of students, in spelling, if we notice that this child has a spelling error, they say, "Well, Miss, I can't spell." CXC is not going to punish you every time you get a word wrong. We acknowledge that there's some spelling issues. So we may deduct a mark, or depending on how bad, it may be where you have no punctuation, you forgot your full stop, you didn't put any commas, no full stops, no wrong punctuation marks, incorrect punctuation marks. Well, then, we look at the whole thing as a whole. But we do not penalize for every word is spelled wrong, and we do not penalize for every subject-verb agreement you didn't, have it correctly and that kind of thing. We read it as a whole. We give you fair chance, because as I said, I know some of you think that they are mean old ladies or gentlemen who don't have a live marking, but I want to let you know that we really, really do have the best interest of you in mind, and we do take account of the holistic when we're looking at the language, how well you were able to really bring across the information, and how well you were able to, you know, make sure you be consistent in the punctuation. You may lapse, and that's fine. You know, nothing is necessarily perfect. You may lapse here and there, but we truly, truly fight for you to get your marks. So all we are asking you to do is, when you're going there, go in and do your best. You have the information. You know what a report should look like. You know what a letter should look like. You know what a memo, an email, a notice. You know what summary writing should look like. Narrative writing should look like. Even this argumentative persuasive. You know what it looks like. All you have to do, take your time, read the instructions, and then formulate what you are going to write. And it's as simple as that. I am very excited for each and every one of you who took part in the Writing Like a Boss series, because I know that you are going to do well. So, tips for successful writing, most important, read instructions carefully. Read the instructions carefully. Ensure clarity in your writing, logical flow, factual support, and formal tone. That's what we look for in expository writing. Select relevant details. Organize and express accurately. Avoid opinions and emotional language. Avoid narrative style of writing for expository. Narrative has its place in section C. Narrative writing has its place. You can use all your literary devices, all your adjectives, all your adverbs, everything to make your writing, you know, stand out. But remember, everything has its place. Narrative style of writing does not have a place in expository, because expository deals with facts, factual information. Use appropriate language and punctuate correctly. Learn the various expository formats and conventions. So I would have listed them over and over in my speaking. And of course, use of transitions. Firstly, furthermore, in conclusion, I hope you took a screenshot of the transition slide, transitional word slide. And that's it. You know, I am really, really excited for each and every one of you who are on, because that means you have a purpose. And it says writing with purpose is writing with power. And I want you to be reminded that you are not writing to pass an exam. You are writing to encapsulate lifelong skills that's going to carry you through into university and into the world of work and into your relationships. Because many of the techniques, many of the styles that you've learned over the time, over the 5 years you've been at school, during this Writing Like a Boss series, it really, really is something that is going to, you have to embrace as a lifelong skill. Be clear, be structured, and be confident. So I don't know if anyone has any questions on reports, memo. At this time, feel free to ask. I don't know if anybody has any questions, sorry, on the YouTube link. But again, I'm asking Miss Thomas if she can put the link. Fiona, I see your hand. If she can put the link for the YouTube in the Zoom chat, so persons who may have missed things can go back to that link. Yes, Fiona?
Yes, I'm asking, so basically the newspaper report does not include the receiver address and the sender address, but the headline something is, and but you have the same body structure, just like the other report them, like,
yes,
except from the sender. Okay.
Yes.
Thanks, Miss.
Correct. So the newspaper report is the only one that is a little different in its nature, and it's quite similar to an article. That's why we have articles within a newspaper. So because an article, an article can be anything that requires some information to be shared. It could be an accident that took place. It can be a weather report. It can be a sports report. Because that's what newspapers, that's what it's engendered for, to give reports, style of writing. So it does not require that sender's receiver, but it has so you can go back in the recording and be able to screenshot that if necessary. Anybody else?
There's a question in the chat from YouTube.
Miss, my teacher gave this exact report, but we were to have it in one paragraph as the body of multiple. Is that wrong or also acceptable? Let me see if I can understand exactly what you're asking. Give this exact report, but we were to have it in one paragraph as a body instead of multiple paragraphs. Okay, so that would go back to, now is it the report that CXC would have given them? I'm asking if that's the one, or is it the memo that you were referring to? I don't know if the person on YouTube is still there, if they can clear up for me if it's the memo.
Kristen sent it a little earlier, and I just saw it. I believe it's the report.
It's a report?
With the report, the body of the report being only one paragraph. So the introduction, the introduction, right? So introduction,
yeah,
one body paragraph and conclusion. So 3 paragraphs in all.
If the student had 3 paragraphs, that's fine. Remember, as we as noted, there's no prescribed way that a student would put information, but we want to see that you can take the information, organize it well. So there's an introductory paragraph. Now, if you were telling me that you took everything, introduction, body, conclusion, and you put it in one paragraph, we will have a little problem when it comes to organization. You will lose marks in your organization structure because we are looking for you to take the information and use your paragraphs to be able to ideally pinpoint these are the relevant or main points that needs to be expressed and the details given. And when you're giving details, depending on what the prompt is, so for example, this prompt, there were many facets of what transpired between when the teacher left and when the teacher returned. So to just lump everything in one, as one whole piece of writing, we would recognize some organizational faults there. However, if you did have an introductory paragraph and you gave us the information in the introductory, what happened, who, what, where, when, and that kind of information, and then you began to give us the details in the middle paragraph, and you gave us all the details there, and then you gave us a conclusion, you would not necessarily be penalized. You will not be penalized. You will not be penalized. The only thing I say I foresee you being penalized for is if you take everything and just write it as one, like a summary. You just write it as one whole paragraph. We would be lacking some organizational skills. So I hope on YouTube land, that answers your question. So it's fine if your teacher just told you to do an introduction, put everything else in a body paragraph and a conclusion. That would have been fine. That's okay. Any other questions? Yes, Amelia?
Miss, this one's not really related to the report, but I just want to know what time is the class for tomorrow?
Which is expository writing. Miss Summers, is it still at 7 p.m. JA, 8 p.m. TT?
Yes, 7 p.m. Jamaica, Cayman time, and 8 p.m. Trinidad and Tobago.
All right, so I think that wraps up this session. I hope that it was valuable. And I just want to encourage you, students, make sure that you take your time, read the instructions, do every part of your paper as far as possible. Don't lose any marks. Try to get every part done, especially when it comes to expository. Get those 30 marks. What did I say? 30 marks. Even if after all our sessions, you forgot how the format for a specific one, remember, format is only 3 marks. So don't penalize yourself and then become all, depressed because I can't remember how to start. Remember though, the body, the content, the structure. Have an introductory paragraph. Have your middle paragraph. Have a conclusion paragraph. And once you keep that in mind, you are going to be able to, capture the rest of the marks. But we really do want you to relook at the format so that you get your full 3 plus your 27, which will total you 30 marks. So don't waste any of it. So I'm excited. I want to wish you all the best. Continue to write like a boss. You are bosses, and this is what we are declaring over you, that your writing with purpose is writing with power. We'll see you tomorrow for statistical reports. I'm not sure if Miss is going to touch on minutes and agenda. So thank you again for your time, and I wish you all the success in your upcoming exams. Have a blessed night, everyone.